this week. It's just this week. For the week, actually. Yeah. Well, there's no, I couldn't see the forecast. I couldn't see the forecast for Saturday. Today will be perfect. Yeah, I can see you guys too. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Somebody will get out there. Next spring. I don't know if you have like two. They want to be helped. Just as you've done for other people, they'll pay it forward. Yeah.
I thought to myself, I'm going to hold this pause until I sucker someone in to start clapping, and then that's when I'm going to start conducting. So I don't know who started clapping, but thank you for falling for that. First, I just want to say a big thank you for coming to today's concert. I personally think it's an awfully gorgeous fall day out, and I don't know about you, but I would love to be outside, maybe reading a book, drinking some coffee. So I think it's great that we're kind of here enjoying music together. So thank you for coming today. Today's theme for our concert, Liz and I got together and we're talking about music. I forget when we were talking about music. Over the summer, we talked a couple of times, and we thought about this idea of celebration. There are so many things that we could be celebrating right now, and if you look at the program, you're going to see that Liz is very clearly celebrating what? What is Liz clearly celebrating? Americana, right? In 2026, what are we celebrating? 250th anniversary, right? So Liz has chosen all Americana music that is just, I think, staples in the repertoire. The Copland, for example, that you just heard, arguably one of the earliest American ballets. It was actually premiered 83 years ago, almost to the day, if I remember correctly. October 16th sounds correct. So one of the earliest Americana ballets. If you're anything like me, whenever I hear this piece, I'm left thinking, beef, it's what's for dinner. If you remember those commercials from the 90s, right? So every time I was rehearsing with this group, I'm like, man, I need some beef. The next piece that we are going to be doing is Stephen Yarborough's work based upon a poem by Willa Cather. She's an American writer primarily known for her works relating to life on the Great Plains. The poem words are in your program notes, I believe. I think I had them in there. So I'm not going to read a poem to you. I know Liz was desperately wanting to read the poem, and we decided to put it in the program notes. So without further ado, one of the things that stresses me out the most about concerts here in particular is honestly this stinking little microphone. One, I don't like talking to them. Two, I'm always thinking, is it on? Is it working? So I have this like pre-concert ritual where I march upstairs to Eric and I'm like, remind me how this thing works again. So just so you know, this is my anxiety here. Before we go to the final piece and I say a couple words about the final piece, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Liz to say a few words.
First of all, I would like to thank Stephen Yarborough. I had hoped that he could be here today and he couldn't, but I'd like to thank him for his kind permission for letting us play this piece at no rental cost, which was lovely of him. The second thing that I want to say is that some of you may be aware, most of you probably are not, and there's no reason you should be, that it's all state orchestra audition time in the swamp. We have lived through it. The auditions for Huron and Mitchell were last Wednesday, and I am pleased to tell you that the Huron contingent, all the people that play with us, a cello player, a viola player, and a violin player, got in and actually advanced a couple of chairs, and we are proud of them and their teacher. Beth? And we are also proud of Jet Shee, who got into second violin on his first try and is halfway up the section. Jet, stand up.
See, and that's my anxiety right there. And you understand it. The final piece that we're going to be playing is by Mark O'Connor. Mark O'Connor, arguably America's leading, if not just simply the fiddle player of America. Is that how we would say it? Yeah. So he wrote this piece. I have a little note to myself to say, what else about Mark O'Connor? 3-time Grammy Award winner, 6-time Country Music Association Musician of the Year Award. If you've not heard Mark O'Connor, go home, go to YouTube, type in Mark O'Connor, do some listening. I think you will appreciate what you come across. In this particular piece, the individual tunes are in various folk styles. They appear in a chronological order, O'Connor says. Not only represents the evolution of American folk music, but it also mirrors his own family's migration from Ireland and Holland to America. When we are done with this piece, I'm going to acknowledge the 10 million soloists that you're going to be hearing in this. So when we get to the end, I know the applause is going to be raucous and amazing. Just keep it going for all the soloists. All right, without further ado. While the orchestra is making their way off and jazz band is making their way in and over, I had a couple things I wanted to say that currently just escaped my mind. Fortunately, I wrote notes down. Yes, so one thing in the program, jazz band is switching their order a little bit. They're going to be doing Basin Street Blues is last, correct? Okay, Hannah's shaking her head yes. Basin Street Blues will be last. That and Little Brown Jug are switching around. There's some paper in the microphone for you. While Liz chose Americana music to celebrate America, I was kind of at a loss in terms of, man, what do I want to celebrate with jazz band? So I kind of picked, it looks like random music, which it is. It's random, upbeat, fun music. And with my brain, I'm just thinking, man, I want to celebrate the musicians that I have in this particular group. I'm not going to stand here and get super sappy because my students would look at me and be like, who is this person talking at the microphone? But it is a joy to genuinely work with these people. And for me, the concert is as much about audience as it is about the students and the musicians I get to work with. Something I want to point out with the musicians here that you see here, especially Addison in the back, Julia over there on trumpet, Morgan over there on saxophone, Veronica back here on percussion. They helped move every single piece of percussion equipment over from Smith over here with at least none to my ears, no complaints, which is really kind of cool. Now, what they said amongst themselves, I don't know, I don't need to know, but I heard no complaints, and they were really quick to do that. Normally, Regan over there on alto and Hannah on Barry would also be helping move things around, but I specifically told them don't help this past Friday because they had a recital that they did, and I was slightly scared, mainly for Hannah, who is Hannah, and I didn't want anything getting broken on her, so I was like, please don't help move anything. Those two went above and beyond and just did a non-degree recital this past Friday that they will also be presenting again at 401 Create November 5th at 1 p.m. So they're going above and beyond. The group in front of you is going above and beyond, and that they are also going to be presenting a concert at 401 Create December 5th at 1 p.m. So the music that you're hearing now is going to be staying in the rehearsal room underneath their fingers, in addition to I don't know how many other pieces yet. That's a Tomorrow Me problem that we will be discussing. With that said, want to celebrate Olivia Foster back there. She's our one community member. Yeah, sorry, Olivia. In jazz band that comes back and is just a joy to work with in piano or in jazz band. At the end of every rehearsal, Tuesday and Thursday, her and I get to have a chat, which is just fun, and she brings me lots of joy. With that said, jazz band is going to tune pretty quick. It's not going to be a production. And then they are going to play some awesome tunes for you. Thank you. while we're getting set up for concert band. Just want to let you in the audience know that we only have another hour and a half of music to present with band. That's a joke, thank you. One of the things I want to celebrate, I mentioned earlier I wanted to celebrate the students that we work with. Liz was celebrating the idea of Americana. Something I personally want to celebrate is the community members that we have in Wesleyan Band. Some of them are current music educators. Some of them is a retired music educator principal. We have a professor that's joining us. What they all have in common is they have a deep love for music, and they bring a lot of laughs to rehearsal, a lot of laughs to the concert. Just now while jazz band was sitting here in the back playing, Teresa is singing Basin Street. Phil is providing a dance. It was great. They bring the exact same energy to rehearsal, which is a lot of fun, and I think the students appreciate that just as much as I do. I'm going to be keeping talking to a minimal from here on out. I'll probably say one more thing before we wrap it up. This will be Wesleyan Band, and once it looks like everybody's seated, Catalano, give us a nice concert B flat, and away we'll go. Oh, before we play the final piece, as a performer, the people I'm mainly celebrating whenever I'm on stage as a soloist is truthfully the audience. I practice however many hours a day. They practice how many hours a day. Not to necessarily, I don't think, play for each other, but to play for the audience. I can't speak artistically for everyone up here on stage, but man, my intention as an artist is to somehow communicate with you, move you, from me, make you have a better day, forget any nonsense that you happen to be feeling. So in all sincerity, we are here, we are celebrating you, all right? Before we play the final piece, I just want to give a couple quick thank yous. One to my students. Addison is my student worker who does countless amounts of things for me last minute. He'll complain at me because he'll get a text message at, 10 o'clock at night, 2 in the morning, saying, hey, I need you to take care of this, and he's really pretty quick to do it. I want to thank the community members for playing with us. You bring me an inordinate amount of joy, and I know my students really enjoy working with you all too. Me personally, I want to thank my wife back there. I get a little high-strung during concert season. I have a bunch of stuff coming up, and she puts up with me very nicely. She lets me practice and talk with my students and hang with my students when she's at home taking care of our 1-year-old. So special thank you to my wife. I want to thank Liz back there for letting me be a pretty metronome for the orchestra, and then just working with her. So without further ado, this is our last piece on the program. This is Fanfare for a New Era. Thank you for coming.